welcome everyone to the Summit Dearborn Community Board of Trustees meeting this May 12th, 2022. If you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving up to our consent agenda.
Yes, in your board packets, you have the following items on the consent agenda. You have the minutes from April 14th. You have the claims for payment. You have the following personnel items, and you also had a highlighted copy, updated copy at your seats. For the following recommendations for employment, Joe Lamb and Kelly Brown, East Central High School Summer School Proctor. Anthony Mormon, East Central High School teacher. Marvin Goodpaster, East Central High School custodian. Carissa Hanneberg, East Central High School JV volleyball coach. Tanel Brayton, Middle School administrative assistant. Andrea Creek, Middle School volleyball coach. Teresa Bollinger, Bright Elementary Summer School instructional assistant. Christian Andres, Middle School summer school teacher. Rachel Mersman and Mark Wheat, Middle School summer school teacher. Paula Warner, Summit Elementary instructional assistant. Melissa Lowe, Bright Elementary extended school year teacher, and Hannah Patton, East Central High School track and field coach. We have the following resignations. Tanil Brayton, Middle School instructional assistant. Gina Stroh, Middle School student council. Allison Davis and Julie Helmers, Middle School instructional assistants. Paula Werner, East Central High School teacher. Elise Gorman, North Dearborn Elementary teacher. Veronica Mullins, Summit Elementary instructional assistant. And Anastasia Luckop, Bright Elementary instructional assistant. We have one termination, Shannon Williams, Bright Elementary instructional assistant. Diana Richter, letter of retirement from Diana Richter, Summit Elementary instructional assistant. We have one new job share to teachers at Bright Elementary, Patty Pierce and Nikki Schoenberger. And we have the following summer staffing. We have summer custodians, Jana and Jamie Pennington, Michaela Knieven, Marissa Johnson, Marcia Hornberger, Lisa Hempfling, Kayla Banks, Gina Cook, Melissa Wright, Shannon Henry, Heather Sturworth, Sam Riley, Hannah Cook, and Veronica Bradley. We have the following summer athletics: Dennis Stonefield, Scott Schwartz, Bryce Stonefield, Brooke Stonefield, and Rick Mormon. Summer office workers: Madison Adams and Colton Colgate. Summer bus cleaners is Linda Gober, Michelle Newberry, Delaney Origer, and Ella Maxwell. IT workers: Judy Welty and Jackie Hall, and Katrina Starrost. And then 3 bus drivers: Kitty Allen, Brenda Patrick, and Melissa Schaefer. And then we have the following overnight field trips. McCord Snyder will be taking FFA to the state FFA dairy cattle evaluation and at the Whitley County Fairgrounds, departing June 2nd, returning June 3rd. We have the East Central High School state officers attending the FCCLA state officer training in Fort Harris, Indianapolis, departing June 8th, returning June 10th. Roy Johnson and McCord Snyder will be taking the FFA to the state convention in Indianapolis Fairgrounds, departing 6/14 and returning 6/18. Brenda Osmond will be taking FCCLA national officers to the conference in San Diego, departing June 6th and returning July 4th. And then the remaining members will depart June 28th and return July 4th, and Ashley McConnell will be attending that as well. And then finally, we have Roy Johnson taking FFA to the member retreat in Trafalgar at the FFA Leadership Center, departing July 11th and returning July 13th. So I recommend approval of the consent agenda items.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do we have a second? Mr. Davis? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. On to our presentation this evening.
So we have the East Central High School Middle School Agricultural Programs is going to present to the board.
Thank you.
Thanks, McCord.
Thank you.
Of course.
you.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Roy Johnson, the high school agriculture instructor, and I'll let our other speakers introduce themselves once they come up. We'd like to, again, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you folks here this evening and to the members here, or to the folks who've attended the meeting as well. And we kind of want to talk about some things in the near future, kind of a vision down the road, and then hopefully some other opportunities for the agriculture programs here in Sunman Dearborn in the near future. Can you go ahead and hit the next slide?
I'm doing it.
Thank you. Hit that next slide. There you go.
Go
All right.
next one. This
No,
one?
we're
Are we
good. I
Okay.
was trying to be funny and that didn't work, so. It happens a lot.
That was not funny.
It was-
I thought it was off, so.
I will stop that. In general terms, sort of a three-year vision, and these are some things that I know McCord and I and our alumni group, advisory group will be working with, are things to do at both the high school and middle school will be to improve and be able to hopefully offer some more opportunities in our animal science programs. We have animal science courses here at the high school that are offered on a every other year basis. Mr. Snyder incorporates animal science in a lot of his middle school courses, as well as the introductory course that he teaches up here at the high school as well. We want to be able to provide an increased stepping stone for middle school students to get interested in the agricultural sciences and FFA here throughout the middle school and the high school. And then again, provide more students, more East Central students, a wider variety of East Central students, opportunities to become successful, and identify career opportunities in the field of agriculture post-graduation. Go ahead. In terms of our facility here at the high school, we have an excellent facility. I would say probably the largest facility, at least in southeastern Indiana, in terms of vocational agriculture. We have two classrooms, one of them equipped with more of a science lab learning space, the other one more of a traditional space. We have a kitchenette area. We have a large ag mechanic shop, paint room, welding booths, wood and material storage space. We have a second-story greenhouse, which we have a plant sale again tomorrow night, so stop by. And workroom up there. And we try to utilize the campus at large. We have on the south side of our high school raised bed gardens for vegetable production. And we typically use the campus for landscape design projects and things that we continue to do, give the kids some good hands-on activities outside. In terms of, any sort of traditional animal science space, we don't have anything that we can work with, at least in terms of an extended period of time. Animal science things that we have done in the past and maybe in the future have been a bit limited in terms of having animals and those types of things here at the high school. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Snyder, and he's going to hit on some things for the middle school.
Thank you again, guys, for being here. When we take a look at the middle school space, we really have one dedicated space that is both a classroom space and also an agri-science shop space, or more ag mechanics. And when we tie in as many students as we have together at the middle school, that can potentially become a dangerous space. So having a extra classroom versus a lab space is something we'd ideally like to see long term. Right now, we do have 8 raised beds currently outside of the middle school. We haven't been able to access those the past couple of years due to the building project, unfortunately, but we have been coming up to the greenhouse and using that space. And then I have been going to the high school gardens as well, getting that just introductory steps in, so the kids have that space or that knowledge as well. Animal science wise, we don't really have a lot dedicated space either. I just got done raising chicks and ducks in my room, and we made it work best that we could. One thing that we did see potentially with that, and we continue to see, is the smell of the animals and that ammonia level. And so I'm constantly opening and raising my garage door to make sure that ventilation is at a safe level, not only for the animals, but also, of course, the students and myself to be in there. And then if you want to go ahead and slide over, here are some pictures of my room currently. It does look kind of like a mess. We're at the end of the year, so, we're trying to get things all coordinated and switched around. But you can see that the larger picture there is kind of just the right when you walk in, what you see. It's a lot, and, coordinating, up to 35 students in that space is tight at times, especially when I try to do projects and other things. The back half of my classroom, then closer to the garage door, is going to be more of the shop tables, the equipment, bandsaws, scroll saws, and other things. And if you can kind of see in the pictures, the smaller ones on the two on the right side, a couple of my shop tables are actually stacked on top of each other right now. Part of that was due to the whole COVID situation, and we had to space kids out. But also with the expansion of the program growing down there, we needed more physical, just classroom space. And so now I'm left with tables stacked on top of each other to make sure I have that space. So those are just some visuals there of what I'm working with. The ducks and the chicks were actually closer to the garage door. I have a floor drain down there, so that way we could, clean out everything really quickly and hose that area down to get that cleaned up as best as possible. And go ahead. So moving forward with the middle school, there's kind of 3 potential ways that we could potentially, I think, go as a route. Now, from my understanding, my room is going to be renovated in the summer of '23. So, looking into the next school year, it may or may not be ideal to go ahead and design something and then have to gut that room and start over. But 3 different options could be a small animal lab with students being in that front half as they currently are, or that back half would be all animal science based. The next one would be aquaponics, so raising those fish, maybe it's tilapia, all year long, and then growing vegetables off of that, kale, lettuce, tomatoes, whatever that might be, and applying that more to the plant and animal science piece all in one. And then the third option, which is a little bit more in depth, would actually be taking the kids out of that room and not teaching them physically in that room and just keeping it a life science lab space and using the second high school classroom as the sole middle school room. Again, that's going to be a little bit more in depth, but that could be a potential option, whereas if we teach the high school animal science course, those kids could also come down and utilize that space as well. So the next slide here is actually kind of just a bird's eye view of something that I've tossed together really quickly. So the first one, again, is that small animal lab. So if we take a look at it, that front half would be used for the student desk and actual lab or classroom space. If you look there off to the left, you'll see that the green rectangle is going to be currently a caged-in dust collection system. To my knowledge, that's going to be removed in the building project and renovation of my room. So maybe potentially adding a lean-to greenhouse, a poultry raising area. Maybe if we go to more in-depth with animal science down there, doing a ventilation system right there in that space as well. It's got potential to be used. I just think figuring out a way what's going to work best is going to be something we need to look into. Other things on there, you'll see that the back half is going to be for the small animal raising area. So that could be cages, hutches, terrariums, depending upon what you are raising. And then one thing that I'd really like to see is that if you look on the far right-hand side, you'll see that my current tool storage room, it's got a lot of tools and great things there. But again, with about 35 middle school kids in one classroom, it's hard to teach woodworking projects safely. And so if we could convert that into a bathroom, because right now I'm sending kids more than halfway across the building to go to the bathroom during class, and that's eating up a lot of time to actually get them teaching and doing labs and other things. The back half then, or the very last back wall there, you'll see a light blue triangle. That's currently equipment in that space now, but turning that into cabinets and countertops for storage and other things would be ideal there. So that would be the small animal lab. Again, that could be changed in a variety of ways, but just as a general idea. I'm gonna go ahead and the next one then is pretty similar. The main difference though is the back half would be used for aquaponics and aquaculture. So getting a 600 to maybe 850 gallon tank in there, raising tilapia all year, and maybe having a fish fry for the staff or the students or whatever at the end of the year once those have grown out completely, and then having that aquaponics growing bed as well there attached to that, tying into that plant science space. You'll also see the green circles, the TG, those are the tower gardens. I currently have one, and it's actually being used, and it has been being used for the past about 3 months by our social studies department, doing a little cross-curricular action there, and they've been growing lettuce and turkey, and they're doing African daisies now as they're learning about those continents and tying that into their curriculum as well. So that diagram there is pretty much similar for the rest. The third one then would be the life science lab, again, the more in-depth one. So this space would be completely used then as a lab space. Front half, maybe adding in more tower gardens. Our fifth graders have those currently at the elementaries, and being able to continuously tying that in as they come to the middle school is something that they currently enjoy with the one that I have. More of the middle space then would be used for animal science. Again, cages, hutches, terrariums, depending upon what you're looking at there. And then more of that last third being the aquaculture and aquaponics setup. Again, there's a variety of ways that you could change this, but this is kind of something that I thought would be ideal for what my kids have been asking me for, and myself trying to get it to that point. So those are just some diagrams there, and again, those kids in that diagram would be taught up at the high school in our second room across from Mr. Johnson's. This then is just kind of a long wish list of things for the middle school. I just kind of went through some of the diagrams, so I'm not going to go too far in depth with this list. But you'll see, again, I think that one of the things that we really need down at the middle school in my room is a bathroom. Again, that's, sending multiple kids out halfway across the building multiple times throughout the period it's not ideal. And then, another thing I've thought about is letter C there, is potentially adding a greenhouse on top of the space outside of our sixth grade pod. We've talked about potentially, Dr. Maple and I, potentially turning that into an outdoor classroom space. If you did a greenhouse outside of my room where our dust collection system is, I believe that's the east side of the building. Sunlight, it's not going to be ideal there, so if we put a greenhouse there in that location, it would be better for those plants and growing. You can see the aquaponics there and kind of some information with those. Again, more tower gardens, animal raising space. Something else I'm really into, and I know my kids are too, is floral arrangement. And so maybe getting a large glass front floral fridge that we could use to do designing for homecoming purposes, senior nights, other things that could be cost saving to those programs that are here as well. You'll see there's a link on that one, the marine land products, and I'll actually get to that here in just a second. And then also potentially adding a kitchenette space as well. So it's just kind of a long general wish list there. So the marine land commercial products there, you'll see there's a variety of things that we could do. I would say that we probably want to go more commercial at the middle school level, because a lot of my kids either have me for 9 weeks, a semester, or even a year. So with the chicks and ducks that I just raised, it was only my quarter 4 students that got to see that and actually handle those and work with those. Quarters 1 through 3 didn't have that opportunity. So if we did more commercial style, we could do the rabbits year long. Maybe we do ferrets or birds or whatever that might entail. I have 6 years of experience as a zookeeper prior to working here, so I have tons of small animal experience to tie that into as well. I just want to show you just a couple different options as far as commercial stuff. When we get to the why then, this is mainly why we're here. When we look at next year's numbers, we've recently gotten those at the middle school level. We're seeing about 400 students going to be enrolled at the middle school level. And then I've got, roughly 20 to 30 kids at the high school on top of that. And then when we get up to the high school, we're going to have roughly 200 all year long. And we're to a point now where we're actually, unfortunately, turning kids away at the middle school. And you can see that we had roughly 300 kids that were actually turned away from our middle school ag program that either actually wanted it or had it as an alternative on their list to fit into their schedule as that master plan is being built. And so if we could add another space or maybe potentially another teacher or something to offer that as a stepping stone prior to getting into the high school, I think that would be ideal. And then the other thing is that we are currently sharing an ag teacher, myself, between the 2 buildings, and so that takes 1 class period away from the middle school, being able to offer a course or a class at that time as far as the middle school's standing. So that's the middle school and kind of the update there. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Brad Dawson to talk kind of about more in depth into our future.
Thanks, McCord. As McCord said, I am Brad Dawson. I'm a graduate of East Central High School, 87, and I've had 2 kids that have graduated also through the high school, and I have 1 more that is in 8th grade that will be going into high school this year. So the administration had approached Mr. Johnson and Mr. Snyder about potential. The North Dearborn property of the North Dearborn Elementary came up. They came to the Alumni Association trying to come up with some ideas. We know that there's just not enough room currently. We did a tour last night of McCord's facility in the middle school, and I would invite any of the school board members to do that and just see how tight those areas are, how confined they are. So the Alumni Association came together with possibly using that North Dearborn, and this is all conceptual, but creating the Summit Dearborn Community Schools Agriculture Education Center. Basically preparing today's youth for tomorrow's challenges. Really getting into the vocational, giving them an opportunity to get some associate degrees in agriculture through Ivy Tech by offering more classes, and just utilizing that facility, a new facility. Next slide, please. The Summit Dearborn Ag Education Center, again, conceptual, consisting of 23.48 acres at the old location of the North Dearborn Elementary. What we propose is about 70,000 square feet under roof, multi-purpose. This would allow us to bring agricultural, science, horticultural, and natural resources together in one learning environment. This facility would have about a 30,000 square foot educational facility, 20,000 square foot livestock aquaculture facility, which would also take into consideration a farm to school program for supplying food to the cafeteria in the schools, and then a 20,000 square foot arena multi-purpose facility. This is just a picture of the old North Dearborn property. The existing, or the old building footprint is there. The new footprint is going to be very similar, a little bit smaller than the existing school footprint that's there. Next slide, please. So the educational facility, which would be in the front of the building, parallel to the existing sidewalk that is still remaining from the demolition, would be a classroom, meeting, and conference space. Conference space, we allowed 48,000 square feet, which is basically 3 classrooms that could be opened up into one big hall that would allow 960 standing room people, 685 seated, or 320 in a dining environment. So this facility could be used for a lot of purposes. The other thing would be leased educational space, where we could bring Ivy Tech, Vincennes University in to have a lot more space to get more educational opportunity in this part of the county. Right now, as far as ag goes with Ivy Tech, you have to either go to Richmond or Columbus to get anything. So we could possibly introduce some ag along with the current dual credit that is here at this school, and then expanding that dual credit. Other possibilities we've thrown around was leased office space, kind of help pay for the building through bringing all the entities of the county into this facility, which would be Purdue Extension, FSA, Farm Service Agency, NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts in the county, and then other things that we think would tie nicely in as partners in this. Also, we would equip it with a commercial kitchen to accommodate, the conference space, ADA compliant restrooms, and the vocational instruction area. Lease space, this would allow for all county agriculture resource entities to be under one roof. Agencies would be partners. This would help provide security and management opportunity for the entire facility. Create student intern possibilities with partners, provide adult education and field days at the facility, and provide additional higher education opportunities in the area. The livestock facility, again, as I mentioned, is 23.48 acres, give or take how it would be laid out. But it would be an educational production facility that would consist of a 10 by 20 multi-purpose arena, a 20,000 square foot of livestock production area, 1,000 square foot animal nursery, a 1,000 square foot veterinary science area, and this whole operation would be a farm to school program as well. Outdoor pasture areas would also be included. These are just some conceptual drawings of the livestock facility with a 100 wide, 200 foot arena multi-purpose area, and then on each side lean-to would be 200 foot by 50 foot areas for livestock production, aquaculture, small animal production. On that next slide. This is kind of an opening. You can see where the arena area is in the center, and then the lean-to sections on each side. And then this is an interior. So the livestock outdoor space would be a rotational grazing system using paddocks so that the animals can be rotated around, not to destroy the vegetation and allow the vegetation to get more use out of the vegetation for a longer period of time. There are various examples of watering systems, various examples of fencing systems, heavy use animal pads, pasture seed trials could be utilized, alternative grazing methods can be tested and utilized in this outdoor space. We also talked about adding an additional horticultural outdoor space, which would be community gardens, nursery production, fruit and vegetable production, again, farm to school, demonstration garden, and landscape skills practicum. All the high school agriculture's currently courses are dual credit through Ivy Tech. This facility would allow us to add additional animal science, vet science, meat science, emerging technology, getting into robots or solar. There's a lot of robotics or solar. There's a lot of different things that would fall into the curriculum for the dual credit. And it would allow a lot more students to participate. And then as far as funding, I think initially it was thought of as being an expired bond renewal that would be coming due in the future. Also, there's great possibilities for county funding, state funding through the Indiana State Department of Ag, federal funding with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, Farm Service Agency, Purdue Extension, grants, corporate donations, and private donations. So I think there's a lot of potential to bring the community into this and have the buy-in and have a great facility that is nothing like this in southeastern Indiana. You're starting to see some of these in the district, in some other districts. Actually, I was just made aware of tonight that an EC grad is currently Alicia Bada-Geasley with Franklin Community High School. They are actually putting in an education center like this for agriculture in Franklin Community High School, who is a high school grad here. So, next question, or next slide, sorry. So I just want to thank you for listening and taking the time to be on this board representing our school district. And is there any questions that I can answer, or any of the other members here?
I have a few.
Great.
Brad, what kind of staffing would you anticipate for a facility like this?
We didn't go real long on the staffing, but we kind of thought how this could work is probably like a 2-period class where the kids will come over. As far as staffing, you're probably going to need to add at least one more ag educator, as the need has been proven. Possibly a facilities type manager that is also maybe as a teaching that takes care of the facility, oversees the facility. A lot of this is going to be through just buy-in with the kids that have projects or in this facility. Parents are going to have to commit to be spending some time to help with the security and the management and make sure things get fed. But as far as the initial, probably a facility manager that has some teaching capabilities as well, and an educator as well.
Okay, I would anticipate a lot more than that, just hands-on people to help.
Again, and a lot of that's just going to be volunteers.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of as an alumni association how we kind of planned it initially.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, there is going to be janitorial, things like that. We didn't want to get too far into it. First, we need to see if there's the buy-in, and then I think a steering committee being formed would be the route to really kind of get this project going and how we can do all the logistics. How are we going to get students from A to B and back, things like that. But the need is definitely here. We just need to get the buy-in, the board, the community, and then really come up with a master plan.
Okay. The excess area, you're thinking would be all pasture? That's what you're anticipating, or maybe some garden
Pasture,
area?
landscape, orchard areas, vegetable gardens, possibly some community gardens as well.
Okay. Question for the middle school. You don't have to stand up, that's fine, whatever. I'm very informed. Ventilation. What's our current ventilation in that classroom?
So that room does not have any air conditioning or anything like that currently in it. That's part of the building project, updates, ventilation, I got that dust collection system, but nothing other than.
Got a big garage door.
The garage door,
Yeah.
but otherwise nothing currently.
Because I would anticipate there probably is a significant odor.
Yeah, there was
Issue.
quite a bit.
Okay.
And that's with the small number of.
And that's just, I had 12 birds, so that added up real quick.
Some of that's middle school also.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it's this time of year.
Yeah. Yes.
But that does get a ventilation system as part of the project.
Yeah.
The FFA, how many middle schoolers are in FFA?
This year, we're up to 71. When I started, there was 5. So we've grown it quite a bit in 4 years, but we're at 71.
And the high school,
Our total membership's 143, so
counting, that's high school, 143?
That's both.
that's both together.
Both together, so it's 50-50 about,
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much. Do you have, FFA's extracurricular,
It's intracurricular.
so can you take FFA without, if you can't work ag into your schedule?
Say that again?
Okay, can you be an FFA without taking an ag class?
No, it's a national rule that you need to be enrolled in an agricultural education course to be a member of the FFA. It's not like any other group where you can just join the club. or
Right,
whatever.
so it's a
You need to be
it's a
enrolled.
national rule for
Yeah.
FFA?
Yeah.
What about FCCLA, Mrs. Ogden, is that
They
same?
just have to have had a class.
Have had a class, okay.
That's how we are able to have them join also after school.
Okay, because I know it's hard for kids to get, I mean, you said there's several hundred kids can't get to class, so they can't be an FFA.
What's our middle school enrollment?
We're 940.
If I'm doing my math right, I wasn't a math major. So there's 400 opportunities and we had to turn back 300. So are we saying 700 students applied?
Essentially, yes. That-
So 80%?
Give or take, yeah.
Sixth grade can't be in it,
I have them on a 9-week rotation right now.
so they can be in it.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And it
So
goes-
sixth grade's a 9-week rotation,
Yep. And then
can't
I
be.
have
Seventh grade is,
7th grade's a semester, but it's also mixed in with 8th grade. And then next year I'll be offering an 8th grade high school credit semester, intro to ag course.
okay.
And that intro to ag course is a dual credit that we also get additional state funding. Is that correct?
The 8th grade one is not, but I do teach a principles of ag, which is the year-long course that is dual credit up here at the high school first period.
And that is for 8th graders as well.
No, that's only high school.
Roy, has there been interest from other entities and all that? Have you ever had conversations, people come to you or stuff like that?
As far
Whether it be
as-
county, whether it be whatever it may be, Ivy Tech, extension, anything like that?
In terms of,
Just any conversations around what they say, man, you guys should do this, or? A facility.
well, it's, this is all new to us in terms of possibly having an opportunity to do this down the road, so.
Yeah, I'm just asking in the
I think those are
past.
relationships that would be built. I mean, we always work well with the Purdue Extension folks here in Dearborn County. They're great resource people. And I think the tie-in as something, if we're looking at a livestock facility where you're fattening out steers or something like that, that go back into the school lunch program, or we can work with the culinary department, get up a beef here at the high school or something. There's Purdue Extension people that will, it could be it could be a meat science professor that would come down, that would work with you, so.
Remind me where are all the county entities currently located at?
Currently, Extension is in Aurora. NRCS, FSA, they are on Randall Avenue, outside of Aurora on the off of US 50. And to answer part of that question, Extension has given a verbal support. I just didn't get the letter, but but I can get a letter saying that they are in support of this concept, as is the Soil and Water District in Dearborn County. They are also in favor of this concept. The other thing we were doing while we were kind of putting this together, we were asking a lot of questions. We were asking some community members in the county, outside the county, and a few of the comments, well, I presented this to the Soil and Water Board this morning, and one of the educators there whose kids are in Batesville, her question was, can other schools utilize this facility? I don't have that answer. I said, but your kid could come to Summit Dearborn and utilize those facilities. Somebody in Franklin County, my boy was talking to, said, man, if you build this facility like this and you offer these things, my kids are coming to Summit Dearborn Community Schools. So I think a facility like this, I mean, it's gonna be talked about, regionally talked about, and maybe even state talked about. It's gonna bring a lot of, I shouldn't say notoriety, but visibility to this school district, and it's gonna bring additional people to the school district.
I had more questions, I forgot them.
Like me.
Sometimers.
It'd be interesting to see what other place, like Franklin, they're ahead of us. Be interesting to see what they're doing.
Yeah, and I will actually text you the article. What was the publication it was on? Who's Your Ag Today is the article. And
On
they
Franklin?
and yeah, Franklin Community High School.
And to my knowledge, they are using Lancer and BB for their,
Lancer.
Johnson County?
yes.
Yes.
Any idea of the cost?
I'm not the cost guy.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought we were talking Franklin for a second.
Oh, do you know Franklin's
I
cost?
think it was $1.5 million.
Yeah, $1.5 million to
They were trying to do two buildings, kind of different, and it's off campus as well, from what I read. And I think it's 1.5 per building, or about 1.5 million.
Similar size, similar idea.
I've contacted Alicia, she hasn't gotten back with me, but yeah, I don't know what the square footage is on that.
But as far as the cost on the livestock facility arena, the rendering company, which is an all-steel building, including 30 R30 insulation and paneling on both sides, everything. Material cost and steel's through the roof right now was about $1.6 million. I figure you're gonna double that, so you're probably talking about $3 million to $3 to $3.5 million for that facility, the biggest portion. The educational facility, I mean, we're about 30,000 square feet, but I don't know if institutional cost are $200 a square foot, $300 a square foot, $150 a square foot. That, I don't have those numbers. We haven't looked into that. It's a lot of legwork to bring all this together. If I was to guess, I'm thinking we're probably talking somewhere around $15 million for a total investment.
I'd say more.
Guess, conceptual, and it could be. So,
Yeah, I think the big thing here is, what I was looking for is just, some sort of plan idea. Here's what we are, here's what we wanna be, here's our stepping stones to get where we wanna be, that sort of thing. Conceptually and all that. I agree there's probably a need. The 80% of middle school students has me scratching my head. That's a lot. So, anyway, that's anybody else?
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Very nice.
Appreciate your
Thank
time,
you.
Brad.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving up to our action items.
Okay, next on the agenda are textbook adoptions. Kelly Roth has been working with the curriculum committee during the school year, and we have quite a bit to adopt because we ended a couple years ago on short notice. We didn't adopt, and last year we didn't adopt because we had a lot of issues. So we actually have 3 different series we're adopting. So her recommendation is to adopt social studies, math, and language arts. And then we're also asking that the various novels that are used at the high school be adopted as well while we adopt the language arts. So for the social studies is Appendix A, and you can see that depending on the grade level, it varies in terms of the publisher, but there's a publisher called Savas, which was Pearson, for grades 2 through 5. For K-1, we're just going to use local resources for things like community and things like that they teach. McGraw-Hill for 6th grade, Cengage for 7th, and then McGraw-Hill for part of the high school and 8th grade, and then again Savas for some of the high school, and then Cengage and McMillan as well. So you're going to see some big numbers on these adoptions. So the social studies K-12 is $284,000. The next one is math. So K-5 and 6-8 is going to be Indiana Reveal Math by McGraw-Hill. And then the high school, it's basically based on what the course is. So you can see Algebra 1, 2 is McGraw-Hill. Algebra 2 Honors and Geometry is Cengage. Then we go to Savas for Trig, Province Stats, and Pre-Calc. AP Stats is McMillan, Calculus is Cengage, and Advanced Math is Savas as well. This one is more expensive because Mathis has a lot more resources, and that's $540,477. And then the last one is the language arts. So what's different with social studies and math, first of all, we did a 5-year and a 6-year because we don't want to be in the same spot again in 5 or 6 years. So we're going to try to get these off each year so we're not redoing 3 adoptions again in 5 or 6 years. So the language arts is for 5 years, and that's the total cost for 5 years that I gave you earlier, which was $284. Social studies is math is 6 years, and that total for the 6 years is $540,000. And then with language arts, a lot of that is reusable books, so we just buy them each year. So you can see that for K1 and 2 at Sainer Bloser with the handwriting, and that's all the way through 3rd and 4th as well. Grammar workshop and progress writing for Sadlier, again in 5th grade as well. For 6th, they're going to use some online resources, No Red Ink and vocabulary.com for 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then 6th is going to use Thoughtful Learning as well, and 8th grade also. And then at the high school level, they're going to use No Red Ink and Membeam, which is another online tool for vocabulary. The cost for language arts is only 1 year is $91,000. And then the final is an extensive list of novels that we currently use at the high school. These aren't in the library, these are the ones we use in class. And just to clarify a little bit, we don't use all of these every year, but this is the list that they rotate through, so you have that information as well. So the total cost of those 3 items, I don't have that added up, but I think it's around $950,000 total, so it's just shy of $1 million, which is a lot of money. We have more than that in our textbook fund. So the last couple of years, we've received donations from the city of Lawrenceburg and from our own foundation that we've been depositing each year, and for this time when we're ready to adopt it. So we have the money. We're going to continue to offer it free to our students. So those 2 grants is what's paying for everyone's book bills. We do show the per student amount, so you know what the amount would be per student if they were buying these themselves, but you can see what the savings is for our community, which is nearly $1 million that we have in our fund. Our fund with the most recent deposits, we had a couple this month that don't show on the current fund report, but it's around $1.3 million, so we have significant even remaining amount if we need to. So I recommend approval of those textbook adoptions for social studies, mathematics, and language arts.
Mr. Geller, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Burke, any discussion?
Question for you. You think we'll ever get away from textbooks?
I don't.
I don't
No.
think so either.
I think that there was a push 4 or 5 years ago towards that, and 2 things happened. One, textbook companies have figured that out, and they've done some things that because people thought there could be a savings there, but the way things have changed with licensing, there's really not much of a savings. I think there's a place for online resources, but I think students need books, and they need workbooks, and they need paper, and so I think that has come and gone. I don't think we'll ever go to a kid having everything on a Chromebook. So.
All of these resources have a digital option and a hardback option, so our students will get both. I think every single one except for, well, even handwriting now has the digital option. So that's pretty much what companies sell. And it's the same price to get the book.
Oh, for both.
And the, yeah,
Okay.
because
Why not?
nobody, yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, up to 5.2.
All right, we're here for the moment everyone's been waiting for, the handbook adoptions for next year. So we have several handbooks. We have the Tigertown Preschool, we have the Online Academy, and then we have the 5 school handbooks. So each principal is just going to present the changes. So you have the full handbook in your packet, and you have a memo with the changes. So each principal is going to present the changes. So we'll start with Pamela Williams. We'll review the Tigertown.
Good evening. So, we started off this year as our first year with our preschool, and so we started pretty much from scratch with our handbook and found that it really did meet our needs. There were only a couple of things upon review that we needed to look at. One of which is we really want to be flexible with what families need for the scheduling, but I believe we've figured out it needs to be set. So really, that's the biggest thing here, is it's both with their schedule in class and with transportation. We're just asking them to set it, and we will make exceptions, but for the most part, for our handbook, once we set it, we're going to go with it. And then the other thing on here really is that originally we just had a tentative schedule, and we've actually been able to plug in Mrs. Johnson's daily schedule in the handbook. That's all we have.
Beautiful.
It's been a huge success, Tigertown. So this is our second year coming up. We're limiting it to 12 3-year-olds and 24-year-olds, is that right? 12
15 and 20.
15 and 20. So we had 35 openings. I think within 2 weeks, we had, 90-some applicants or something like that. So it's been very popular.
Is there any thought of expanding that if there's that big of a need?
We've not thought about that, no. Right now, it's funded through stimulus for another year. So if we wanted to do that, we could, but we'd have to look at applying to the state to get certified for some state funding called pre-K, what's it called, pre-K?
On My Way.
On My Way pre-K. So that's possible. There's also, we could do a sliding scale for tuition as well if we needed to. So those are all possibilities, but we have not
I didn't realize
gotten
it was
that
that
far yet.
big of a,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, that's,
How did it impact your kindergarten enrollment?
So we are just now getting ready to transition them to kindergarten.
So it's not, you didn't do 4-year-olds this year?
So we have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds this year
Yeah.
that will be transitioning to
Oh, let's
kindergarten.
do this.
Yes,
So how
so
many of them are going into kindergarten?
how many of them? So I think, well, we have 24-year-olds, and so between my school and North Dearborn and Bright, and there's a couple of others, they're all moving on to kindergarten.
They're all going to kindergarten here?
From, yes,
From Dearborn.
yes, yes, sir. And then I have, the 3-year-olds are all enrolled for next year as well, so they're returning to the program, so. It's been fun to watch them grow.
So I recommend approval of the Tigertown preschool handbook.
all right, we have a motion. Mr. Davis, we have a second.
Second.
Ms. Burke, any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes.
All right, next is the Summon Dearborn Online Academy handbook with Mrs. Roth. Sorry, you were supposed to say that.
SDOA has just a few changes to the handbook. This was we just finished our second year with the program. I thought it was more successful this year than it was last year. And the elementary program was very successful, but due to a lack of interest from the community, we're gonna discontinue the kindergarten through 5th grade program moving into next year. There's just not as much interest there. There were only 7 sign up to continue, yeah. So I've removed the K-5 content from the handbook. Another revision to the handbook is we are actually able to proctor NWEA remotely. Students take that 3 times a year. Really, the only time our SDOA students are required to come into the building is for state testing, because that is a state requirement. So they've chosen SDOA, some of them, for a reason. They want to work remotely, they want to be at home, so we're able to offer NWEA, which is our local formative assessment, remotely. So we found out a way to do that successfully. That's in the handbook. I replaced the calendar with a new one. And I also updated the acceptable use and safety policy to reflect the most recent board-approved one. Those were the only changes. A lot of talk about the attendance. What do we do when students don't do their work? We've come up with a good plan for that now. Students actually come into the building and are supervised, but they stay in the program. Usually it's temporary. They come in for a little bit. They don't
realize
they don't necessarily like doing their online work at school with a monitor. They'd rather do it in their bedroom. So they get caught back up and they go back home, and then they don't need to come back for that level of support. So it's been good. We've tweaked it along the way, and now we feel like we're in a good groove and we're able to offer that good, solid program to our community.
Very good.
So recommend approval of the SDOA Online Academy Handbook.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Shaw, we have a second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Up to 5-3.
All right, so we have the 5-4. Yeah, we have the 3 elementaries first. There are gonna, I don't know who's presenting for the 3 elementaries, but these are the same handbook with just the school-specific stuff changed, so.
Thank you. If you recall, last year, Pam, Jeff, and I went through and we made a little bit more significant changes. This year, just some minor tweaks, as you can see in the memo that we sent out. Basically, we updated the core values and beliefs, pending board approval on those. We added to our school expectations, be honest, to just the general expectations. It was something that we've been doing in practice, but we'll make that a little bit more explicit in the handbook. And then, just some, a few minor spelling, grammar things, formatting things, other than that. So it's pretty minor changes to the elementary handbook this year.
Very good. I'm just gonna say, do we have a motion? Because I know what you're gonna ask.
Well, we have middle school also.
Oh, you're gonna do them
So
all
we're,
together?
yeah, we did all
Oh,
5
well, I
schools
can shove it
together. Is that
together.
okay? And then the high school.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Evening, everybody. So at the middle school, just a few tweaks to ours as well. We are currently under an 8:12 start period. First period, we're gonna move that back to 8:10. The buses get there in enough time. Our kids actually are in the building, most of them by 7:50, 7:55. So currently, they're like cattle. They walk around the bottom half of our building, follow one another. So trying to minimize that as best we can. Plus, with altering our bell schedule because of the cafeteria issues, we're trying to squeeze a few more minutes here and there to lengthen some of the periods. We're also not permitting the AirPods earbuds, which have become quite a problem in the recent year or two. Kids wear those quite often, and with kids growing their hair out, unlike myself, they're not very visible at times, so putting something in there to make kids not wear those during the school day. Changing some wording on the backpack rule. They have to remain in the lockers unless it's the last period of the day. They can't take those to their last period of the day. And as I alluded to earlier, the bell schedule did change quite a bit just because of the cafeteria issues that we're going to be dealing with. That would be page 2 and page 3 of the memo. All class periods will have 45 minutes, and lunch is period 5 and 6 combined. We worked that out, so MTS is also in there. The page 811 is the updated technology acceptable use policy, which was board approved on the 12th. We are altering the tardy to class with the whole COVID one-way hallways. That made some kids a little lax of getting back on track of getting to class. So we're altering that back to minimize that and kind of replicate what the high school does as well, get them prepared for that. So that kind of leads to, we are on the progressive discipline model. We have 4 categories. So page 28, 29 would be the addition of the tardy rule, and then currently bullying is a category 2 offense. We're bumping that up to category 3, making sure that, not to say that we're having more bullying issues, just making the first offense more impactful, if you will. And then the last thing would be the book selection process in classrooms in the library, which is board policy. We're just putting that in our handbook as well.
Please excuse Mr. Swinney's absence tonight. He certainly has been a big part of the handbook project the last several years now, but he is in attendance at the Career Center graduation. So I'm standing in for him since I was going to be here anyway. So there were a few, again, minor changes at the high school, much like you've heard previously. We too updated the student technology acceptable use. We also updated, based on House Bill 1468, that there was a requirement for all schools to have published in actually two different places, one on student IDs and then one in the student handbooks, suicide hotline, prevention hotline, tip lines if they're available in your school system. So we have made those changes both with what will be our new photography company and then, of course, in our handbooks as well. And then our bell schedule, in coordination with the middle school, would move those 2 minutes at the beginning of the day to an 8:10 start time. Again, we did this a year ago with COVID. It didn't meet with any challenges as far as getting kids here on time or buses here on time. And we were able to adjust 2 minutes to the end of our day. Coach Moore was just mentioning bell schedule changes for the backpacks. We don't allow backpacks in any classrooms except last period. And that happened to be that passing period, 6 to 7, the largest number of tardies in the building because of the size of our building, and kids are going to get their instruments, their backpacks, so that they're ready to 7th period, and then dismissal. That's where we have a lot of tardies, and it wasn't necessarily because of laziness, it was just they need time. So we were able to take those 2 minutes and put them in there, and we hope that will address some of that issue. Again, we coordinated that with the middle school so that we could match those bell schedules as much as possible, beginning and end of days. And then the other changes really are policy clarifications. The same classroom adoption, library book adoption process, we have that in our handbook as well, just like the middle school. Now, the alternative learning assignment, we had some language in there, but we wanted it to really match board policy, so we just took board policy language and put it directly in there instead of what was previously a generalization. And then there was some language that may have been used in years past. Dr. Jackson brought this to our attention this year. As far as students transferring from outside the district, it's a very simple process. They must fill out the out-of-district transfer form, which is available on our website, and they would be accepted based on a couple of outlying factors, attendance issues or discipline issues. Other than that, they can be accepted. And our language still included what was probably old language. There was an interview process with the principal and so forth. We just removed that because it's not necessary anymore. Other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Great. I recommend approval of the student handbooks.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
Mr. Graff, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Schultz, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Nope. All right, motion passes. Up to 5-5.
Yes, so we have the board policies from the last meeting brought back for board approval. And I'll just go through what they are again. There's several non-discrimination, equal opportunity, policy 1422, 3122, and 4122. Non-discrimination based on genetic information, that's 1422.02, 31.02, 3122.02, and 4122.02. Section 504 ADA prohibition against disabilities for discrimination in employment. Policy 1623 and policy 3123 and policy 4123. Anti-harassment, which is 1662, 3362, 4362, and 5517. And 2260, which is non-discrimination and equal access to educational opportunities. And last is 2260.01, which again is section 504 and ADA prohibition, that was better, against discrimination based on disability. So that's the first set. The other one are the various COVID rules about meetings and online meetings. So it changes the following policies. 0164.5 is member participation through electronic means, which is now allowed. 0164.6 is meetings during declared emergencies. And 0164.4, which is a meeting of the board, is changed and defined. And then same with electronic voting, which is 0067.1. I recommend approval of those board policies.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Schultz, do we have a second? Mr. Davis? Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, up to Item 6.
Yes, Marion Baines will give us the financial report.
I think Dusty's next.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Service, yeah.
Dusty. Sorry, Dusty.
It's all right.
Mr. Burris will give us the building project update.
Good evening. May's been a busy month. It seems a short time ago that we returned from spring break work. Just give you some highlights of what is getting ready to start. Very quickly on the 27th, on about 3 o'clock or 3:05 or 3:07 p.m. But a lot is going on in the elementaries. As far as 2 libraries, Sunman and Bright are both getting their books boxed up right now. Staff has been great working on that. So those libraries will basically be renovated. Also the middle school. So we've got lots of books, lots of boxes, and appreciate the efforts on that. At the high school, classroom-wise, the business lab area gets renovated. That area is pretty extensive with regard to what it needs on the mechanical side for power and connections and things. So we're dealing with some challenges on that, but we're working through them. North Dearborn, the lower level has quite a few classrooms being renovated and touched this summer, as we've already touched a few of those, but it's going to be busy at North Dearborn as well. And then middle school, update on the kitchen of the cafeteria. We've had steel on site, just been waiting to catch up on block and foundation, and those things are prepared now, so we'll have steel erection of the kitchen. It's kind of hid around the back of the building, so it's kind of out of sight, but that will be occurring. Big topic with the natatorium. Lots of pool tiling has gone on since we last spoke. They're making very good progress on the inside of the pool. On the balance of finished material on the inside, there's a lot more wall tile going up. Epoxy flooring in the locker rooms is going on right now. Just drywall finish work, basically work on the inside. Any place that there's terrazzo, they're trying to get that ready for terrazzo, as that's a pretty long process given the amount of the area and the staging of that. Exterior, we've got trim finishes going on. We've got some glass that's getting replaced that was did not meet inspection, so they caught it on the front side. But it's really getting buttoned up on the outside. It's pretty busy there right now. One thing that we have in place for you is at our June meeting, we'll have Maxwell here to give you a project update. We picked that time with them because that'll give us about 30 days into the summer work, and then some other milestones will have occurred. So we'd like to give you the opportunity to tour that as we've done in the past, but we'll do that in June. And just in closing, just want to thank all of our staff, whether it's just from all levels. Everyone has really been so cooperative, working with all the contractors. We ask people to move, to box up, to reroute, and they've done so. I'm not going to say it's been with a smile because it gets a little bit weary sometimes, but everyone's had a really great attitude, and it's appreciated by Maxwell as our construction manager, and I think also from our contractors as a whole. So, and then in closing, we've been safe. So that's a good thing to have given the size of our project. So we'll look forward to give you an update in June. Any questions?
Still on time schedule? Any big?
We have some challenges right now. Some is related to supply chain. Some is related to just overall staffing. Everyone is thin, so when you have crews and contractors have crews, we try to get their A team. So those have presented challenges. As of right now, nothing that is in critical path, but there's a lot going on, and it's always how things finish at the end, you know, with a rush. So, but we'll have an update for you in June on that where they can speak more specific to some things. But overall good, just a big challenge. I will say this to that, we had a discussion this week, and a lot of the discussion was everyone in the room had never seen anything like this in the last 2 years as far as trying to manage labor and material and just logistics of things. It's just, we were kind of pleased when we started because COVID gave us a head start. You know, we were able to take that situation and start roofing, and even last year at this time, we started our summer work 2 weeks ahead of time because we got out early. Those 2 weeks were nice to have, but we're overcoming. We got great effort, great attitudes, and we continue to communicate very well. So we'll have a better update for you on that, but it's challenging, but should be okay.
Supplies, anything critical that's going to prevent?
Not really. It's just trying to time material availability and now it's scheduling. So for example, when the Trazo goes down, we give up a lot of that space for finish work of ceilings, and it has to finish out. We've got site work to do on the north side of the natatorium, and then that starts to compete with getting glass replaced that needs to be. So, you know, two crews can't occupy the same area. And capacity-wise, it's difficult to have crews that will work a hybrid schedule or will work late into the afternoon. You know, they're used to I work from 6 to 2:30 and it's 3 and I'm out of here, and we're like, hey, it's daylight till 8, but there's just not as much, capacity is a little different. But we've got a lot of hands on deck, and they're working on it hard. So, but it's challenging, if I can say that. So, all right. Thanks. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Next, Dustin.
Now, all right, now.
In your packets, you have the April fund report. We ended the education fund at the end of April at close to 1.6 million. As you can see, we did dip into the red in the operations fund. We get that draw typically in May, so I expect that to be in by the end of the month. So then you'll see that come back up at the, when I present for May. The ones on the bottom right, as normal, are the reimbursable grants. On the next page is the education fund projection for 2022. No big changes, still looking to end the year at around 3 million. We did have a big payroll month for April. We had 3 payrolls, so that's why those numbers are up quite a bit for the expenses. And the last page is the operations fund. Again, no big changes. Has us at 2.9 million at the end of calendar year 2022. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Report. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that leaves us up to public comments. Any public comments this evening? No one? Last chance? No? All right. S-DEA, Ms. Osmond.
SDEA is currently in the midst of re-elections, and also we are updating our bylaws, just to make you aware. I think they're pretty old, and Sharon Motor has been working on that diligently, so, because she's retiring, so we gotta get this ready. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Osmond. Principal comments.
Looking back at all the things that have occurred, and I realized a great trend. We had an awesome set of field trips. So I just wanted to say thank you to the teachers and Mrs. Schartzer for helping make sure we had transportation for things like to the zoo. We went to the Levi Coffin House. They went to the Newport Aquarium. We also had Silly Safari in-house, and second grade just did an awesome walking tour of Sunman. So I'm just really thankful the teachers take the extra effort, because it really does take extra effort in planning for that. So lots of great opportunities there. We had our final family lesson of the year. It was on adaptability and resilience, and it's just been really great to see that program grow and get some movement. And so we already have that community working to prepare for next year. Our preschool playground has been completed and it's been well used already. It's been a great addition, and it's nice to have the fencing area for all those 3 and 4-year-olds. And then, right now, also, the teachers are also working really hard to finish up NWEA testing and FMP testing, and then they'll utilize that data to build our cluster groupings for rosters for next year. And then just last, I'd like to invite you all to our award ceremony on the 24th at 8:30.
I understand you have the Indiana Hoosier Hall of Fame coming up.
That
next
is
week.
also coming up. I don't have that date in front of me here, but that is
It's the
coming.
20th, I believe,
The 20th.
a week from today.
So that is open
Is that right?
also to,
No, Friday, a week from tomorrow.
open to guests,
Friday.
and they'll be in the cafeteria and the gymnasium, and they have worked really hard to prepare for this.
It's
So,
always enjoyment. I always like going back, so.
thank you.
Mr. Bond.
Good evening. First, our Vikings of the month: Frank Mingus, Aubrey Klump, McKenna McAdams, Harper Bryant, Ryan Kinnemeyer, L. Wilhelm, Henry Moore, and Leland Jones. We always like to recognize those students who are identified by their teachers as exemplifying those Viking code characteristics that we have in place. We too have a lot of events coming up, and with the weather changing, we're fitting in a lot of those field trips that we've kind of been waiting for this nice weather. Mr. Snyder, I'll see your chickens and ducks, and I'll raise you a busload of elementary kids after a zoo trip. That's, they have a lot of fun, and it shows. So we finished, we had a zoo trip today. We've got some park field trips coming up. Hopefully the weather holds off tomorrow for those. We've also got a lot of fun academic things coming up here in the next couple of weeks. 4th grade has their economics fair tomorrow. There is no challenge to the supply chain for the economics fair in North Dearborn. They made products, and they bring them in, and they earn dollars that they can spend on each other's products. And then they make changes based upon supply and demand. It's a whole nice lesson. Teachers get to come in with some other students as well to shop and then make those adjustments. On Monday, we have the PTO's sponsoring a children's theater, and we have a one-woman show, Jacqueline and the Beanstalk. So our students will have two performances of that for our primary and our intermediate grades. 5th grade has a science presentation next week. We do have a senior walk again on the 20th, so I'm excited for that. We're always happy to see those seniors and honor them. And we also have field day coming up, and the date on that is tentatively set, but we always look at the forecast and try to choose the most convenient and nicest day for that. So a lot of fun things coming up to end our year of hard work and honor and recognize our students.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Likewise, at Bright Elementary, a lot of things going on. May is such a busy month at schools. You know, we've got a lot of fun things, kids going on field trips and different things. We celebrated last week, we celebrated our Students of the Month for May with Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw. So the students that most exemplified that habit. Our Staff Member of the Month for this month was Lisa Tyler, who just does a fantastic job with the PE program. We finished up all the I-Learn testing, and as Pam said, you know, kind of getting near the end of the NWEA and F&P benchmarking for the end of the year. PTO last week had the father-daughter dance and the mother-son dances on Friday and Saturday nights, which were very well attended. Both nights were very well attended. Appreciate all the hard work that the PTO took into putting those events together. Next week we got 5th grade performance. Instead of a singing performance as they typically do at the end of the year, they're doing 2 plays. So 2 classes are doing 1 play, 2 classes are doing the other play. The students help write and organize these plays and have been building sets in partnership with Ms. Darty and the art department. So if you're free next Thursday, the 19th, we've got Jack and the Beanstalk and the French fries. And the second, there'll be an intermission. The second is the 3 Sillies, so 3 short plays that the kids have written and put together. So excited to see how those turn out. It's really been neat seeing we got this big Beanstalk, these boxes stacked up, and some cool set designs that the kids have been working on. We got senior walkthrough coming up next Friday, the 20th, and kindergarten graduation on the 25th. So good end to the school year.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Dr. Maple.
Good evening. So we don't have any French fries coming in. We do have Aquaponics. So next week, on the 16th, there's a choir concert. The 17th is our band concert. Also on the 17th, we next school year. May 23rd is our academic awards night. It's always a fun time. We send out 302 letters out of roughly 900 students, so that's pretty cool to honor that amount of kids, and that's always well attended. The 24th is 8th grade dance. Dr. Jackson is actually DJing that night.
That's not true. And it's not funny. You and Roy. Roy, write your material.
I'll keep moving on. On the 26th is our talent show in the morning. Always cool to see what our kids, we see the basketball, the wrestling, the cheerleading, we see all that, but there's kids out there with some talent, and it's kind of cool to see that. And we'll honor a lot of kids that day in the morning from 8:30 to 11. If you're interested in coming, that's the 26th. Field days in the afternoon. If you would like to supervise, I would encourage you not to. The 31st is when we start summer school, so we've got a lot kind of going on the last 2.5 weeks here and getting ready to go. Last thing I'd say is just like to thank our students and staff. Kevin and I's job is enjoyable because of our staff that we work with, and we've got great kids, and that's basically what it boils down to. And kids are a reflection of their parents, and so thank our community and everybody that helped us out this year to get through May 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nate.
DJ, huh? Just see him right there.
It's doing rock and roll.
At the high school, we're fast approaching the end of another school year. We look back how excited we were in August to come back unmasked. And then in January, where it felt like COVID was closing in on us, we into a spring that has really felt as normal as we felt for a long time. So we're very thankful. In academics, we're in the midst of AP testing. Finals are right around the corner. Finals will actually start Tuesday, May 24th, and then Thursday, May 26th, and the last school day. Graduation, you've heard about our walk. We're really in the throes of graduation planning right now. We had our last big preparation meeting with all of our committee at the table this morning. We sent out a letter a week ago now to all seniors and senior parents as far as ticketing, seating capacities, et cetera, because we have some adjustments with the gym space with the new bleachers. But we shared that information a week ago. Cap and gown delivery actually happened this Tuesday, so kids have their caps and gowns just in time for tonight's Career Center graduation that I mentioned earlier. We'll also be, in addition to the walk at all of our elementary schools next Friday, planning our senior picnic and our graduation practice as well. So we're excited to be able to see these kids walk across the stage June 5th, considering what they've been through for the last several years. So, in athletics, spring sports are wrapping up. Both girls track and girls tennis have won conference respectively. Track and tennis sectionals will actually be hosted next week here on this campus. Girls track is Tuesday, boys track is Thursday. Tennis would be Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, pending weather. So there'll be a lot going on. We have some very talented kids in track and tennis right now. I'd love to have some folks come out and support them in their first round of the state tournament. Softball, baseball, and golf are all having outstanding seasons as well. We're looking forward to their state tournaments starting very soon. In the arts, the annual art show, you see, although we had to adjust that some a couple of years ago, we're able to have our annual art show revisit again last year with some protocols. We've already started production down by door 15 as far as art displays out now. But Sunday from 1 to 4, we'll have our annual art show right in the foyer of the PAC. And then that couples with our spring choir concert, which will be at 3 p.m. In the Performing Arts Center. So certainly some very talented kids in visual and performing arts. We'd love to have some folks come out and share that. And then I have talked about band a number of times this spring just because of our winter percussion and their outstanding season. Our band spring concert will be the 25th, that Wednesday before the last school day. But certainly some kudos to our winter percussion, who had a great season, finished with the 5th state championship in school history and the first ever WGI championship. So we were able to celebrate those kids a couple weeks ago with a Champions Walk through our hallways, like we do for any of our we have a lot of big events that happen every spring at the high school, from National Honor Society inductions to our academic awards nights, our big banquets, FCCLA and FFA, the last few weeks. Last night, we had our last big awards night, that's senior scholarship. And we were able to pass out nearly $2 million in scholarships and grants to our seniors. Seniors who have survived arguably two of the hardest years ever in education. To think about what they've been able to accomplish in spite of all of that, what they've been able to achieve, for it to be recognized in a monetary way the way it was last night, so it's a lot to be proud of. Thank you.
I just have a couple comments, yes. So I don't know if the board remembers, a couple years ago, I came up with this great idea of planned e-learning, where we're gonna compact our calendar. We didn't know how the school year was gonna be. So we had that planned e-learning for fall break. So the entire fall break, we did e-learning, and everybody hated it. Staff hated it, students hated it, parents hated it, I hated it, the board hated it. The worst part about the fall break one is we knew we had to do it again in spring break. Like, this is awful. So, but then the school year came about May 12th, May 13th. It's like, maybe that wasn't so bad, you know? Like, that wasn't so bad at all. And then I had to remind myself, you know, during the school year, we didn't like that. But now today, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe it wasn't so bad. This time last year was like our last school day, if you remember that. And it actually worked out nicely because of our building project, which helped us do some stuff last summer. So it's hard to believe, like this year feels like a couple years in it. It's ended so well, and we have so many good things going on, and we've really not just survived the last 2 years, but we've really thrived in a lot of ways. And it's hard to believe back, like Mr. Black commented, back in January, it felt like COVID was closing in on us, and we were gonna have to close it down, and it was right at the height of it, and it quickly went away, and here we are with another great year. So I wanna thank our students and parents for what they've done the last couple of years, and our staff, particularly the teachers and our administrators, what they've had to do the last couple of years has been extraordinary. And we take it for granted because schools are always here, and we open up and we have school, and that's what we do. But we've really answered the call over and over again. So I just wanted to thank them once again for another successful school year. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. More comments? Nothing? I did attend the talent show last week at the high school. Boy, there is some talented kids there that you normally don't see. Showcase. We had Johnny Cash in the house.
Yeah.
If I remember right. Had some dueling guitars up there. Tell you, it was a great show. So if you all missed it, make sure you don't miss it next year, because I'm sure they'll outdo it. So let's finish out the year strong. We got 2 weeks left. 2 weeks from today is the last school day. Let's stay safe, finish strong. Anything else? Go for adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Yeah. I'll do it.
All right. We have a second?
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.